I'm not a bitter Eagles fan. I'm a happy Chiefs fan. I lived and worked in Kansas City for 16 years. My mother moved to Kansas City in 1984. I moved there in 1994. The Chiefs are my favorite football team. I bet money on Kansas City winning Sunday's Super Bowl. I'm thrilled with the outcome. But the holding penalty on James Bradbury that decided Sunday's game was totally bogus. I've watched the replay a dozen times. Chiefs wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster never broke stride. Bradbury's contact never impeded Smith-Schuster from getting into his route. It was the worst ending to a television series since The Sopranos. Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Monday. Happy day after the Chiefs won their second Super Bowl in 4 years. What a great start to the week. What a great Sunday it was, except for that awful ending to the game. We'll get into all of that and more today with TJ Moe, Steve Kim, Coach Jason Brown. We got a Super Bowl packed show for you today that's going to be awesome. Before I do any of that, though, I want to turn a less happy note and turn a bit more serious and tell you guys what's going on with us and why it's important for you to subscribe to blazetv.com and become a member. You gotta subscribe to blazetv.com. It's not very expensive. Cough up that money. We need protection because this show is under attack and will be under even more of an attack as we move forward. Just got a note yesterday on YouTube about a warning we received, and our next warning will be a strike and we'll get demonetized. And this warning comes from out of nowhere. It comes from a piece of content, a 55-second piece of content from a month ago where I walked through and talked about the silent P of the Alphabet Mafia and how the silent P movement was all powerful in American media right now. The content is standard, par for the course content. It's not. They called it hate speech. They're giving us a warning at some point for speaking truth and for talking about all the issues that are on the table. We're going to come under attack from YouTube. That's just what happens. For me, I tie it together. Some of you did not watch Friday's show, or perhaps you watched it and didn't understand its importance and impact. That show, and again, it will come like, what does that got to do with the silent P? Nothing. What it has to do with is the importance of this show and how much the power structure does not want real journalism done, does not want to be questioned. Kim Foxx, the state's attorney for Cook County in Chicago, is very close to the Obamas, very close to Kamala Harris, very close to the Democratic Party and that machine that they have of corruption. We broke it down, and if you go back and watch Friday's show, and I suggest you do, because that's why I think we're under attack. They don't want journalism. The entire media industry is anti-journalism. That's why the best journalists have left all the legacy newspapers and all the legacy media outlets, and they're on Substack, or they're on Rumble, or they're on Locals, or they're on YouTube. They're all doing independent things because corporate media is against the kind of journalism we did on Friday, where we brought Ronald Watts on, this police sergeant who was targeted. And look, you heard I pressed Ronald Watts during the interview about the thing they convicted him of in 2012 or 2013. He didn't have a great explanation, but he did have an explanation that I buy, actually, is that when you do good work in this culture that we have now, when you're the person fighting or affecting the bottom line of corrupt politicians and a corrupt elite, you become a target and they have to eliminate you. But I don't even want to debate what happened in 2013 with Ronald Watts and whether or not he took $5,000 or whatever. That's irrelevant. What the point of that show was is that even if that's true, some sergeant in the Chicago Police Department cannot be solely responsible for the level of corruption that it would take for Kim Foxx to throw out 200 cases and start cutting everybody a big, enormous check. Any criminal that comes in and says, yeah, Ronald Watts and his team did something unbelievable to me and they framed me. And man, I was on my way to doing a landscaping business and cutting grass all over the city of Chicago until Ronald Watts and his team arrested me. Yes, it was my 11th arrest, but that 11th arrest is what, put me down and set my life in a spiral, cut me a check. For USA Today to publish that story and present Jawan, Nile, and Larry Lomax and a lot of the other people in that article is, they're just innocent victims. They're not career criminals. They're innocent victims. And if not for Ronald Watts, this sergeant in the Chicago Police Department, oh my God, my life would have been peaches and cream. That's a joke. And I unpack for you what's behind all of this. They're trying to uproot and upend America's criminal justice system. And these are the tactics that they use constantly. And I walked you through how in the late 90s, in order to upend the death penalty in Illinois, they created a false narrative, framed a mentally challenged man for a murder he did not commit, sprung a career criminal who actually committed the murders from prison, all so they could uproot the death penalty. And you don't have to take my word for it. There's a documentary, A Murder in the Park, that I watched years ago. But it explains all of this in the history of the type of corruption that's going on with these universities and corporate media and how they're spinning out all these victimhood narratives and the criminal justice system just must be uprooted and blown up. They're changing America. That's why we're under attack for doing journalism. That little opinion I had about the silent P, nothing. This show, myself, this team will be under attack for doing journalism, for being a platform willing to hear and air all sides, willing to question the powerful and the elite, willing to question the incompetent, people like Kim Foxx, who tried to walk Jussie Smollett out of that bogus hate crime that he put together. That's where the pushback's coming from. And that's why I need you to subscribe to Blaze TV, become a subscriber to this show and the entire Blaze network, blazetv.com/fearless, because at some point, we're going to come under full attack from YouTube. And the only way to be able to watch us will be on the blazetv.com platform. It's very important. If you're interested in hearing the truth, if you're interested in hearing a voice and voices that still believe in America, still believe in our founding documents, still believe in traditional Christian values, you got to be willing to ante up. And it's not that expensive, and it's well worth it. If we don't build a parallel economy away from the big tech algorithms and the big tech censorship, we're going to be silenced, and we're going to lose this culture war. I got to give Alex Jones credit. when he came up with the name InfoWars for his show, he understood, he was a visionary that understood that there is an information war. That's the real World War III. Who controls information? Who controls your mind? Who controls the information that helps you determine what you should think and what your position should be on? And voices like mine, voices like Glenn Beck, voices like Ali Beth Stuckey, voices like Steve Dace, they're being silenced. You got to do your part. Let's protect ourselves. Didn't mean to go on that long, but it's right in line with everything that we talk about on this show and what our sponsors talk about. Bank on yourself. Do you really control your retirement money? If you've got a 401k, an IRA, or a similar retirement plan, the government actually controls it. They decide how much you can borrow and when you must pay it back, and you'll owe taxes and penalties for taking money out too soon or waiting too long, even though it's your money. And thanks to our skyrocketing national debt and a Congress that continues to spend like a drunken sailor, who knows how much you'll have to pay in taxes during a retirement that could last up to 30 years. Thankfully, Bank on Yourself is a better way to grow and protect your hard-earned money. This retirement plan alternative has never had a losing year in over 160 years. With Bank on Yourself, you'll know what your tax rate will be in retirement, zero under current tax law, which protects you from the coming tax tsunami. Your money is guaranteed to grow by a larger dollar amount every single year in both good times and bad, with built-in protection from inflation. Perhaps the best reason of all, you'll know the minimum guaranteed value of your retirement savings on the day you plan to tap into them and at every point along the way. You can get a free report with all the details on how Bank on Yourself strategy adds guarantees, predictability, and control to your financial plan. Just go to bankonyourself.com/fearless. That's bankonyourself.com/fearless. Taking care of the business. Let's get to enjoying this show. My take on this year's Super Bowl. We'll bring on TJ Moe after I start a fire. TJ will help me fan the flames. Let's call it what it is, the Sopranos Bowl. Super Bowl 57, Kansas City's 38-35 victory, unseated, made in America. The finale of the iconic HBO mob series, as the worst ending in television history. With a little less than 2 minutes to play and the score tied at 35 all, a would-be Super Bowl classic cut to black, leaving more than 100 million fans pondering what could have been. Would Philly capo Jalen Hurts rally the Eagles from a 3-point deficit and win the game or force overtime? Or did Kansas City underboss Patrick Mahomes and button man Harrison Butker whack the Eagles? We'll never know because a referee flagged Philly cornerback James Bradbury for defensive holding on 3rd and 8 at the Philadelphia 15-yard line. The penalty gave the Chiefs a first down, allowed them to drain the clock, and set up a game-ending 27-yard field goal with 8 seconds to play. The unnecessary and unjustified call ruined the Super Bowl. I don't care that Bradbury defended the ref. Let's take a listen.
What's your thought on the call?
I pulled the jersey, they called holding. I was hoping they would let it ride, but it wasn't holding.
Is that something they typically let ride?
I'm not sure. I think based off the playoff games that we were in, playoff games that I saw, sometimes the refs let some things like that go, just depend on the ref.
Was that consistent with the way it was called the previous 3 quarters plus?
I think so. It was, they were pretty consistent for the most part. I just can't be blatant with it.
But do you feel like you pulled on it enough for it to be called? There's always pulling, tugging, a little da-da-da-da-da. But in that situation, do you feel like you pulled on it enough for that call at that time?
That's not up for my judgment. I was hoping he would let it go, but of course, he's a ref. This is a big game, and it was a hold, so they called it.
No dice. No way. It was a horrible call. I've watched the replay a dozen times. Chiefs wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster never broke stride. Bradbury's contact never impeded Smith-Schuster from getting into his route. The ref stayed out of the game for 58 minutes. There were no mystery holding calls in the secondary or along the line of scrimmage. It was a clean game. It was a great game until the bogus holding penalty on Bradbury. Let's be clear, I'm not a bitter Eagles fan. I'm a happy Chiefs fan. I lived and worked in Kansas City for 16 years. My mother moved to Kansas City in 1984. I moved there 10 years later. Chiefs are my favorite football team. I bet money on Kansas City winning Sunday's game. I'm thrilled with the outcome. But I feel the exact same way today that I did at the end of The Sopranos. The Sopranos are one of my 2 or 3 favorite shows in the history of television. It's right there with The Wire and The Shield. But more than anything else, The Sopranos is remembered for its trash ending. The screen cut to black. Sopranos fans have spent years arguing whether a hitman in a members-only jacket clipped Tony Soprano as he ate dinner with Carmela, Meadow, and AJ as Don't Stop Believin' played on the jukebox. Endings are important, particularly happy ones. They can taint the memory of an otherwise perfect story. The Sopranos might be the undisputed king of television if not for its blown final episode. A perfect ending can elevate a TV show. The Shield pulled off the greatest finale in history, Family Meeting. The Shield's final 72-minute ep is flawless. Dirty cop Shane Vendrell poisons his wife and kid and then blows his own head off. Dirty cop Ronnie Gardocki is dragged off to jail seconds after finding out his trusted leader, Vic Mackey, the star of the show, snitched to save himself. Mackey forfeits his kids and career and is exposed as a cop killer and is trapped at a desk surrounded by federal agents who hate him. That ending enriched all 7 seasons and all the 87 preceding episodes of The Shield. Sunday's Super Bowl was a bitter reminder of what's wrong with the NFL. Referees have too much influence over the outcomes. They have too many judgment calls to make. The officiating is uneven and inconsistent. Sometimes the games feel manipulated. Pass interference and roughing the passer calls determine outcomes more than the players. I don't believe the NFL is rigged. Nor do I believe former NFL running back Arian Foster's outrageous suggestion that the games follow a script. What was scripted was the reaction to Sunday's game-deciding penalty. I believe the NFL persuaded Bradbury and the Eagles to not whine about the costly penalty. I believe the league persuaded its television partners to downplay the penalty on Sunday. I don't blame the NFL for this. It's smart business. The league's showcase event botched the ending. Roger Goodell wants fans talking about the magnificent performances of Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and Nick Bolton, Kansas City linebacker. It's better to discuss the coaching brilliance of Andy Reid than the fact NFL referees are in an impossible position. Remember the Saints-Rams pass interference, no call that sent Los Angeles to the 2019 Super Bowl? The refs swallowed their whistles and let the players decide the games. The refs were ripped and ridiculed for months. Saints coach Sean Payton whined for months. He wore a Roger Goodell clown t-shirt. A New Orleans fan filed a lawsuit against the NFL, later dropped it. The NOLA no call in the NFC Championship is more memorable than the Patriots' subsequent 13-3 Super Bowl victory over the Rams. Well, this time a ref didn't swallow his flag. He threw it. He directly influenced the end of the game. The NFL is a television show. Its goal is to create television stars. Its biggest star, Tom Brady, just retired. Patrick Mahomes is the next man up. The NFL is determined to stop a bogus penalty from tainting Mahomes' second Super Bowl title. The final episode of The Sopranos aired in June of 2007, well before the social media matrix distorted truth with controlled narrative. 16 years ago, we were all free to rip Made in America. Now algorithms and partnerships determine criticism and dissent. They want us to forget about it. That's Sopranos slang for forget about it. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You guys that are too young, go watch The Sopranos. You'll get it. Forget about it. What are you gonna do? Are you guys too young to remember that? Kenny, you know you don't even watch The Sopranos. Oh, Kristen, you watched The Sopranos? You've seen the replays. I don't even know if TJ, did you watch The Sopranos? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I have no idea. I mean, I've heard of The Sopranos, never have watched it.
Oh my God, you're missing some of the greatest TV of all time. Let's stick to what you do know about football. TJ, former SEC wide receiver for Mizzou. Did the refs blow that call?
Oh, no question. If you watch the tape, I've probably watched it 100 times because I was frustrated when it happened, and then just to go back through. The foul occurred right at, the beginning of the play. So I think they had the ball on the 16-yard line, so maybe it was around the 10. Flag came in when he was about at the goal line. It was so obvious they were waiting to see what happened before they threw the flag. It's very frustrating. You mentioned the New Orleans play, very similar position. It's just part of your job as a referee is to know who's playing the position and what they can get away with. Every guy has a little bit of difference. This is Juju Smith-Schuster. This is the same guy that when Vontaze Burfict came over and knocked out Antonio Brown, he came across the middle, I think it was the same game, and killed him. Juju Smith-Schuster can take care of himself. Your job as a wide receiver is to make sure guys get their hands off of you. So they did a little pivot play. Actually, as good as Andy Reid was, I didn't love the play call. You went for it all on a 3rd and 8. Go to your bread and butter, Travis Kelce, in the middle of the field, get 8 yards, and go that way. He went for it all on what was a pivot wheel. Didn't like it. You put yourself, it's a really hard position for the wide receiver. You have to, on that play, you have to convince the corner that you're trying to cross his face. If you get across his face, then it's an easy 8 yards on a slant route, right? Because they were clearing out with Travis Kelce and such. Had him coming in motion. You have to convince him of that. Didn't quite work. He stayed in front of you. And then when you pivot out of it, you always get grabbed. That's how it works every single time. So you have to anticipate that as a receiver. A big guy like Juju Smith-Schuster, keep your hands. He grabbed him by the waist, grabbed a little bit of jersey. It was a quarter second. Push him off, and you get up the sideline. Wasn't a very good throw. It was only a good throw if you're saying, hey, don't do anything stupid. You're trying to make sure not to throw an interception at the end of the game to potentially lose a Super Bowl. None of it was good. Bad play call, bad throw, bad call. It was a terrible play and a bad look for the NFL.
1,000% agree with you, but I think it's more on the bad throw than on Juju Smith-Schuster, because I don't think at any point what put me over the top is like, I never saw Juju break stride in any of his movements. He wasn't impeded. And so the reason for calling any penalty is because the opposition got an advantage. Mm-hmm. There was no advantage gotten in this scenario. That's stereotypical what happens at the line of scrimmage as a receiver tries to get off the ball. He couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 yards into his route when this happened, and I actually thought you could have some hand combat during that time. It's a horrendous call. It's one of those deals where, and again, I know I'm on the record saying I don't think these games are rigged, but I do think sometimes these games are manipulated, and that's why I don't like earpieces and all the referees, because that flag comes in so late, and I'm in New York. again, they talked about it during the broadcast. Greg Olson or Kevin Burkhardt mentioned, or maybe it was Mike Pereira, that like they had like 30, 40 cameras working this game. So you can sit in New York and analyze every area of the field. And when you need a flag called, you can say, hey, in someone's ear, you missed something. And that's what that felt like, is we needed a flag, there was contact at the line, button was pushed, guy whips out a flag, then they tell him what the call is. And again, I know I'm going conspiracy theory when I wasn't trying to go conspiracy theory, but it's just a horrendous call, and it ruined, as a Chiefs fan, as someone who had money on the Chiefs, it ruined the ending for me. It just wasn't as enjoyable. And then I watched everybody try to, just like Sunday at least, just try to move on from it as quickly as possible in the game coverage. And I thought Greg Olson did a great job, to be honest with you, because he did bring it up. But even in the post-game coverage, they didn't make a big deal of it. I was sitting there shocked that they did a bunch of on-field post-game interviews. And I think when Fox ended their coverage, I hadn't heard from anybody from Philadelphia. And I wanted to hear from Bradbury or Nick Sirianni. What did you think of the call? I wanted someone, and I think Fox left without ever talking to anybody from Philly.
I think you're right. And Greg Olson, former tight end, if anything, he should be on the side of the offense knowing what's impediment and what isn't, right? And I'm telling you, if I'm Juju Smith-Schuster, halfway through that route, I'm thinking, I blew it. I didn't. You have to fool them and say, I'm going up the sideline. I need to be open by a yard or two. We're going for it here. This guy's running stride for stride with me. I would know partway through my route that Pat's about to throw this out of bounds and make sure that we live to play another down. That's on you as a receiver. I'm telling you, not a good play call, not a good throw, but the throw you have to make if you didn't fool him and you're wide open. You got a minute 40 left of the Super Bowl on the line. You can't take a chance of throwing it into coverage when you can get an easy field goal there. So play call didn't work. That's okay. Live to play another day. But I'm telling you, Juju Smith-Schuster was as surprised as we are when he saw that flag fly across his face.
What is worse, the no call that stopped New Orleans or this call that stopped Philadelphia?
New Orleans was worse. I was actually looking at it. It's nearly identical situations. They were both around the 20-yard line, 15, 20-yard line. Both had about a minute 50 left, and we're going to the point where this is how you can ice the game, right? Turned out the other direction in that game, but it was so blatant, right? You always say, okay, let them play, except, it's like in basketball. You try to let them play when they're going up for a game-winning layup unless they get clotheslined. Same thing here, unless you get clotheslined, which so very clearly happened right in front of an official. I'm not with the guys. Everybody acts like you call the game the same way in the first quarter as you do when the game's on the line. I don't agree. You're setting a tone at the beginning of the game. So here's how we want to dictate. We're not just going to let you push the line forever, because they'll keep pushing the line until you get to the fourth quarter, and then it's just a brawl. So you set the tone in the first quarter. You let some things go. You could call holding on every play forever in the NFL. If you've played the game, I've heard people arguing this all day. If you've played the game, there's a foul on every play. There's probably half the guys on the line of scrimmage are holding on every play. Half of the defensive backs in the routes are holding on every play. So you set the tone early on in the first quarter, and then you try to let them play. And I don't agree that you call things the exact same way. And so when it's blatant, like it was in New Orleans, you're like, okay, you just killed the guy. You blew the coverage. You couldn't catch up. You clotheslined him at the end when that was going to be an obvious, clear catch. You have to call that. This one, if you're saying, well, if I look right here where it says this is a penalty, well, yes, it is a penalty, and you have to call it the same way in the first quarter as you do in the fourth quarter. Okay, that's fine. I hate it. I hate it a little more because it's the Super Bowl. The New Orleans game, obviously not the Super Bowl, but I would still lean towards New Orleans. They're both terrible. They're both awful for football. We're sitting here talking the day after the game about a blown call instead of what a good finish it was. Like, imagine if they would have called a penalty on the on Malcolm Butler when he intercepted that pass in the Super Bowl. And now we're talking about a penalty instead of one of the greatest plays in Super Bowl history, right? It's you can ruin a game by getting too involved or not being involved enough. Not being involved enough in New Orleans, in this case being too involved, and that's a problem. You got to let them play, but use your discernment.
What do you think of my tinfoil hat conspiracy that the NFL had a brief word with the Philadelphia Eagles and said, hey, look, there's nothing you can say that's going to change the outcome of this game. Need you to do us a solid. Don't make a big deal about this penalty. I think it was a very quick conversation that they had, and I think James Bradbury and the head coach, Nick Sirianni, were both told, guys, do us a solid. Super Bowl, it was a great game. Can't fix what happened. Just don't blow this into an international incident. I don't buy James Bradbury thinks that was an appropriate call.
I do not buy that he thinks it was an appropriate call. I do not buy that Roger Goodell talked to them either. I think after the Super Bowl.
I don't think Goodell. I'm talking about his flunkies. It's their job. It's their job. But go ahead. I'm not saying Roger Goodell, but it's their job to make sure that what goes on in that postgame doesn't further distract from the actual game.
I just don't think anybody's talking rationally to anybody after you win or lose the Super Bowl. There's confetti everywhere. There's people all over the field. Your head's down because you just lost the Super Bowl. I don't think there's a lot of time spent talking to people before you get to.
Hold for 1 second, TJ. Hold for 1 second. I've covered, let's say, 20 Super Bowls, maybe 18. I'm not sure. Somewhere in that number. This isn't a typical game in terms of there's no instant access into the locker room. There's some downtime for people to instruct because a bunch of stuff going on the field that takes up some time where reporters are covering that, and then you give the reporters time. Now both locker rooms are open, or there is time, and there is a bit more of a cooling off process. And look, all these guys, if your quarterback, your head coach, they spend time talking to their PR guy, their basically, for lack of a better term, their sports information director. Here's the points we want to hit. Here's what you're likely to get asked, blah, blah, blah. It goes on with the quarterback and the head coach after every game. On something like this, I believe someone from Philadelphia pulled Bradbury into the deal and into a room and just quickly said, hey, man, just do us a favor here. Trust me. This is what's best for all of us. Let's don't make a big deal out of that penalty. Now go.
Good information. I still don't buy it. Well, let's say this. Whether it happened or not, I don't think it had any effect, right? I think if you are the head coach or any of the players involved, your emotions are going to largely dictate your reaction after losing a Super Bowl, something you've dreamed about and worked for your whole life. So I just don't buy you're like, oh, okay, this sports information director is going to dictate what I say now to the media when they're prodding at me for the play that I just made to lose the Super Bowl. What I think is more likely is head coach got in, talked to his team, said, fellas, we will be back. We've had the best team in the NFL for this entire year. We will be back. If you didn't notice tonight, we got ourselves a quarterback. And we have the best quarterback in the league. If you're sitting there in Philadelphia and you say, we're going to take the high road and we're going to be here again next year. We'll learn from it. But let's not make this a big deal. The people who go and say that play wrecked our entire world, those people are losers. Those people don't get back. You don't go back and say.
You're making my point. You're just taking a different route.
Yeah, and so I'm saying I don't slate the conspiracy. That's what I'm saying.
I get it, but trust me, I like your scenario because that's a real strong possibility. And that Nick Sirianni, who helped him reach that conclusion, was the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe it's still Jeff Lurie.
Yeah,
that's who helped him formulate, hey guys, trust me, they had a conversation, and Jeff Lurie, I'm telling you, you've you've come up with the likely scenario that proves my point. I'm telling you, did you see what LeBron James did after a regular season game where they didn't call a foul when he was at the rim? That's what James Bradbury wanted to do. He wanted to fall out, nail himself to a cross, and I wouldn't have blamed him. It's the Super Bowl, and that's a bogus call. At one point he says, I don't want to be blatant about it. And so he's measuring his words, and you're right, he's probably following the lead of his head coach.
I took that different than you. When he said can't be blatant about it, I think he was talking about the hold. I watched that too. I think he was talking directly about the hold. Yeah, well, anyway, all I'm saying is I don't think it came from the NFL and saying, hey, this is about the NFL and our look and we want people talking about the game. I think it was more of a high road thing saying we will be back here. And I'm telling you, that's a much easier thing to do when you just saw the game that Jalen Hurts played. Jalen Hurts, as you were tweeting last night, proved he's one of the best quarterbacks in this league, did something never done before in NFL history with rushing touchdowns, throwing for 300 yards, another 50. He's done it twice. Nobody else had ever even done it once, and he did it in a Super Bowl. It's easy to say, let's take the high road. We know we'll be back here when you got that guy playing quarterback.
Finally, on a different note, one of the things, I'm not going to ask you about Super Bowl halftime. You don't look like you spend a lot of time. You don't sound like a guy that spent a lot of time listening to Rihanna like me. So I'm going to ask you about Damar Hamlin was at the Super Bowl. And Damar Hamlin's near-death experience has made him a VIP across all sports platforms, and he's at the Super Bowl. And he wore a jacket that is very interesting. I've asked people, we may bring Larry Johnson on the show tomorrow to see if he can decipher what's going on here. But that's the word above is eternal. On the front, I saw somewhere I could see a few words where he mentioned something about God on the front of his jacket, but that's some kind of cartoonish crucifixion scene on the back of his jacket. And, you know, I saw Damar doing his little 3 or 666, I don't know, picture with LeBron James. I'm souring on Damar Hamlin. Your thoughts?
Not a fan of Damar at this point. There's a tweet going around, and so entering into the record, I have no idea if this is true or not, but there are some pictures attached. And so one guy says there's an artist named Takashi Murakami, and that picture of Jesus is titled Travis Jesus. Travis Scott, a rapper, something about sacrificing fans in a satanic ritual in Astro World, and that's where it came from. This is a tweet going around right now, and there is you can actually see unless it was
hold for 1 second. Go ahead, Christian. Go ahead.
During that showing for Travis Scott,
stopped the show after 6 people had finally passed.
Yep.
It was originally 3 people, but
Yep.
it eventually was 6. That's when they stopped the show.
Wow. So go ahead. Once you said Travis Scott, and so this is perhaps some kind of crucifixion that has something to do with Travis Scott, or Travis Scott's on the I'm souring on Damar Hamlin.
I'm very sour on Damar. There's a picture of Travis Scott that maybe we can get up where he's holding, it looks like a keychain, right, by his mouth of what would be the face of Jesus in the back of what is Damar Hamlin's jacket here. And he's holding that at this point. And again, this is just somebody from Twitter. And Travis Scott sacrificed his fans in a satanic ritual at Astroworld. He made a piece famous by commissioning a jeweler to turn the image into a larger rhinestone-encrusted pendant. So there are pictures up of this stuff. Again, I have no idea what's true and what isn't true. It sounds like Christian might. That is the face on the back of this jacket here. And he also, I don't get it. Whether it's satanic or not, seems like it might be. For a guy that claims to be a Christian, our job as Christians is to point people to Jesus, not use Jesus to point people to us. And that's what he's doing. This guy, when something happened to him, everybody looked to Jesus and they prayed. And he came back and was like, hey, I got another purpose. I'm pointing you guys to Jesus. Look at me. And every day he comes in and he's having people look at him. Comes in at the games and won't show his face, so everybody's talking about him. And he comes here in this crazy jacket, so everybody's talking about him. I don't understand if you're actually a Christian and you're trying to say, hey, let me get out of the way so you can see, wasn't it a great thing? Let's use this moment. That moment wasn't about me or my death. Look what happened. This is what the NFL should be doing. He used that moment now to turn everyone back to Damar Hamlin, and that is why I have been souring on Damar Hamlin since he came out. He's said none of the right things. He's turned all the attention to himself. I don't get it.
Yeah, we're going to have to get a little deeper into this. I got some more homework to do, but yeah, I'm not big on Damar Hamlin at this point. Thank you, TJ. Great job. I think turn on the news or open up Twitter these days, and one thing becomes blatantly obvious. The world is in desperate need of godly men. That's what inspired me to organize the Fearless Army Roll Call, an all-day event to encourage men to put on the full armor of God to take a stand against the evil forces destroying American culture. At this conference, you will hear inspiring speeches from me, from TJ, Delano. We're going to play some music. We're going to eat. We're going to fellowship. We're going to inspire, uplift each other. It's going to be awesome. I need you all to join me and other like-minded men in Nashville on April 15th for this very important conference. It's going to be the first of several. We're going to take the Fearless movement and the Roll Call movement national. We're going to inspire men to live up to their responsibility. I need you guys to go to fearlessarmyrollcall.com. Again, that's fearlessarmyrollcall.com to reserve your spot today. There's special offers for a Saturday breakfast. It's going to cost you a little more. There's special offers for a Friday live cookout show where I'll be here cooking and hosting the show, and we'll fellowship and we'll do a live show where you can participate. That's going to cost you a little extra. But if you just want to come Saturday and do the all-day event with us, it's very affordable, very reasonably priced. Prices are going to go up eventually as we get closer to the event, so now would be a good time to go to fearlessarmyrollcall.com. Bearing witness requires courage, not perfection. Steve Kim, next. Atheists, the secular world, the culture uses our imperfection, our sins to shut up. You can't stand on truth. And if all it was imperfection, it eliminated us from standing on truth, this would be a very quiet place. I'm trying to be as loud as I can and as transparent as I can to try to inspire other men. We know you're imperfect. You know you're imperfect. God's grace and mercy gives you the right to stand on his truth and to speak that loudly into the culture, and we have to do that.
You can look around and say, these guys have taken over everything. They own the CDC, the NIH, they got the president. Is transgender surgery for children? Colleges today are nothing but leftist indoctrination centers working fully against the Bible. What's the alternative? So you're gonna stop fighting today and you're gonna let the government raise your kids? And you're gonna turn around and let them chop off your 12-year-old daughter's breasts and let them sterilize your son and tell him that he's a girl? And you're gonna let them make the Bible hate speech? You're the last line of defense here, because nobody else is gonna do it, and God's gonna walk with you. This is literally worth dying for. Absolutely. I'm telling you, so it's like everybody, that's a nice little metaphor. This is it. If there's a hill to die on, this is it.
The Overton window has been moved right in front of our children's bedrooms. And there are all types of people that are trying to climb up in the ladder. And every good father should be on his post so that when they peek their head up over the windowsill, you kick the ladder back down, let them know you move on to the other house, because we're not playing that around here.
Sometimes just standing up, just saying, no, we're not going to do that. Not my marriage, not my kids, not my family, not my community, not my church, not my city. Just declaring that That's victory enough. In prepping his disciples, he tells Peter, he's like, listen, Satan desires to sift you as wheat, but I've prayed for you. We're gonna face some ups and downs in life, and we're not gonna always get it together. But if we stay on the path, if we stay chasing after, running after Jesus, running after his way, he's even praying for us. Now, I like it when you pray for me, Jason and TJ. I appreciate that, but to have Jesus pray for me, that makes me feel pretty good. When you make it through this sifting process, go back and strengthen your brothers. So we all have a responsibility as men. Once he's delivered me through this, I have a responsibility to go back and bring some other folk out.
You do a roll call to just let people know you're not alone, be confident in your positions, and we're gonna inspire you. We're gonna eat, fellowship, listen to some music. It's gonna be the first of many roll calls that we do. So we're looking for soldiers. We're gonna put on our best recruiting pitches for soldiers.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. Let's roll out to Los Angeles, bring in the Korean Cosell, Steve Kim. Steve, I know you watched the game with Coach JB, I believe. How was the food?
Oh, my God. You know, here's the thing. We already know about his barbecue rep. He brought out this mountain of nachos. It was just 7 layers of goodness. What Bill Walsh is to the West Coast offense, Coach JB is to nachos. I mean, it's an appetizer that eats like a meal. I went for like 3 plates before the main course. It was great. I gave it a 15 out of 10. And I'm a hard grader. You know me. You know me.
How many people were there? He had enough food and drink for everybody. He didn't run out of anything?
Yeah, it was a relatively small gathering. Some football people were there. Got to talk some ball. Really fun atmosphere. I mean, I got to tell you, right now, the cigar is still kind of like, I'm still tasting it. It was smoky all over. I'm going to have to, the clothes that I wore yesterday, I'm going to have to get that dry cleaned and air dried, everything like that. Got 3 television screens going on. The guy got up at like 4:30 in the morning to smoke the meat. Now, that's a commitment that is rarely seen in America. It was a great time. That's going to be my new Super Bowl tradition. I'm going to head out there to Coach JB's palace. It was football-topia yesterday in Riverside.
Yeah.
Should have been there.
I wish I could have been there.
Should have been there.
How did everybody there and yourself come down on the holding penalty that ruined the game?
Oh, so we're all watching the game. Now, at this point, the small talk is done. At that stage, everyone's kind of concentrating on the game. And when that pass floated over, Schuster, we're all thinking, oh, this is great. They're going to kick a field goal, and we're going to see if Jalen Hurts is really the guy we hope he is. Then all of a sudden, it's like, uh-oh, the flag. Most people there, and I think everyone there, thought it was a terrible call. Look, with Bradbury, did he break the letter of the law? Yes. But did he break the spirit of the rule and the way it's generally called in the National Football League, and the belief that, hey, last 5 minutes of any ball game, you really have to commit an egregious penalty to be flagged, especially in a situation like that? I come down on this. It was a bad call given the circumstances. And also, Jay, and again, you can argue that the penalty affected the pass. The throw from Mahomes didn't look all that catchable. And it didn't even look like the contact really impeded Schuster going into that route towards the goal line. I thought it was such an anticlimactic end, because as soon as the flag was thrown, and you knew that Philadelphia only had, I think, a timeout, they're going to be able to squeeze the clock. And then one of the running backs for the Chiefs, I think it may have been Pacheco, thought made a really smart play by just sliding in at the 1. And I said, well, that's a high football IQ, because at that point, the Eagles' chances, short of blocking a field goal, their chances of winning that game went to 0.
So, Steve, I can't remember, and I should have asked you this morning. Did you watch The Sopranos, and was that ending worse than the ending of The Sopranos?
Kind of, sort of, because when Tony and his family were there at that diner, and we're thinking, what's going to happen here? It just went black. You're like, okay, what's going on? I think millions of people back then must have been like, going to the remote, what the hell happened here? And it was so anticlimactic. At least in this particular situation, we got a conclusion. I mean, we may have, look, you can argue, did Tony Soprano and his family get hit, or did he just have dinner? Did they all have club sandwiches that night? But at least we kind of knew that there was an ending. But we have to be fair about this. And I had no rooting interest, okay? I'm not a fan of either team. But Philadelphia in the second half, their defense, they could not come up with a single stop. And in fact, they got gashed in the running game. To me, that's every bit the story than the ending of one play. You know, again, Isaiah Pacheco, to me, makes a strong case alongside the offensive line. I mean, everyone's talking about Mahomes being heroic, and he was to a certain degree. He was very good. He was solid. But to me, for that offensive line to keep Mahomes relatively safe and clean, and for Pacheco to continually run with great intensity and move the chains, that to me is really, alongside the penalty, the story of the game.
Disagree with you. Mahomes was incredible. That is the story of the game, other than the penalty. And then I would say the other thing, in competition, it's connected to none of these quarterbacks got touched. And part of the reason why is because the field was so bad and slick that I think it hurt pass rushers. Everybody was slipping and falling. The field and all the slipping and all the paint they had on the field that ruined the field is another story that should be talked about. We're not going to waste time on it today, but that was another issue that I thought kind of hurt and damaged the Super Bowl. Go ahead. Looks like you want to jump in here.
You're saying that Mahomes is the story and he was incredible. He had 182 yards passing. He is the second best quarterback on the field.
Steve, he stood on the sidelines the whole first half because the Eagles kept going for it on fourth down and the Chiefs couldn't get him off the field.
Right.
And the Nick Bolton fumble return took him off the field. The guy wasn't on the field enough to put up big numbers.
Well, look, that Bolton play to me shows you that little things in big games can be catastrophic. The Eagles are the best short yardage team I've ever seen because they get into that rugby scrum and they do that push sneak. What a time to have a false start that takes you out of that formation and that play. And the very next play, Hurts turns the ball over from going 21-7 possibly to 14-14. I mean, at the half, Jason, it was 24-14 Kansas City, and it felt like it should have been a bigger lead. It almost felt like a 31-7 lead, but you look at the number of plays, time of possessions, and first downs, you're thinking, man, Kansas City is lucky to be in this game. And then coming out of the locker room, I said to myself, if Philadelphia can somehow get off the field and make them punt, they could put this game away early, but the way they just matriculated down the ball down the field, like Hank Stram would say, and once it became 24-21, I said to myself, blown opportunities. But Jason, again, Patrick Mahomes didn't even have 200 yards passing. He was very, very good. He's putting on an historical run. But let's not go crazy over this particular performance. 182 yards passing. Come on. Really?
They scored on every possession in the second half. The man was incredible. The man was before I get there, I want to defend the refs a little bit and ask you, I think we've put the refs in a terrible position. There's too many judgment calls. There's, the rules have been manipulated in such a way you can't touch receiver here, you can't touch him there, that it's inevitable. And I talked with TJ about how the New Orleans no call, when they swallowed their flags, that was the worst thing. Now they don't swallow their flag, and that's the worst thing. I don't blame the refs as much as I blame the rules makers.
Yeah, but okay. You're right, but in that particular situation, you've got to have some situational awareness as a referee. Just because a call went against New Orleans on that play against it was Alvin Kamara, right? That doesn't necessarily absolve the referees of then throwing the flag last night. When you look at that play, if that is a penalty to the letter of the law, right? So you're going to call it that way. If that particular play and route is defended in that fashion, then you could literally have a flag every play, much like they say holding in the offensive line in the trenches.
You're arguing. You're arguing something I'm not trying to argue. We are in agreement. The flag was terrible.
Right.
I'm asking, have the reps been put in a no-win situation?
Maybe, but I think more along the lines in terms of the personal fouls on the hits on the quarterback. Does a hit look too violent even though it's clean? And they want to have the optics, that's unnecessary roughness because we don't want the CTE issue. In that respect, yes, I do believe the referees have been put into a catch-22, but we're talking about a pass interference that looks like kind of a very, very bang-bang, 50-50 sketchy play. To me, that's a little bit different, especially in that particular moment in time. I mean, it was deflating because you're thinking to yourself, we're going to have an incredible, memorable ending, and then it became anticlimactic. It was the biggest letdown of what we can consider of all the really, really good Super Bowls of recent years.
That was a terrible ending, and I'm a Chiefs fan and won money last night. So Patrick Mahomes, two MVPs, 2 Super Bowl titles. Tom Brady is retired. Can Patrick Mahomes carry this league the way Tom Brady and Peyton Manning did for so long?
Well, the Oliver Stone in me says, well, National Football League will make sure of it based on what happened last night. Putting that aside, say what you want about Patrick Mahomes. I know me and you differ on the overall performance yesterday. I thought he was really good, especially considering the circumstances. Just think about this, though. In his first 5 years as a starter, with that guy right there, 15 behind center, running that offense of Andy Reid, that means at the very least, you will get at least a home playoff game or 2, and you're going to make at least the conference title game, and he's made 3 Super Bowls, winning 2. He's trending in the right direction, and the difference is his early Super Bowls, for those particular games and really the season, he's not just game managing like Tom Brady did. Tom Brady, first couple Super Bowls, really about the defense, right? And a couple of clutch drives. You got to give him credit for that. But by the time he's through and he has no catastrophic injury, and let's say he plays another 10 to 12 years clean, relatively healthy, he will challenge Tom Brady in terms of yards, all-time passing. He'll be right up there with the quarterback rating, touchdown produced. And then in terms of winning, will he challenge 5 to 6 to 7 Super Bowls? I believe so. Yes, because this game is so quarterback friendly. And this is where he has an advantage over a lot of these other quarterbacks. Not only is he athletic, because he can make plays with his legs, and he certainly did that yesterday, even though he's hobbled. I thought in the last couple of games or two, he did a better job of just sitting in the pocket and getting rid of the ball on time. So once his athleticism declines, he can evolve into more or less being a really, really good pocket passer.
On the other side, the one reason why I was so confident in my Chiefs bet turned out to not to be true. I thought the Eagles would get tested for the first time in these playoffs. I didn't think Jalen Rose would be able to meet the standard as a passer to keep him in this game. I'm completely off that now. Jalen Hurts, after yesterday, other than Mahomes and Burrow, he's right there. If someone likes Josh Allen, I got no problem with him. If someone likes Jalen Hurts, I got no problem with him. But there's no one else other than those 3 guys that right now can be put in the same classification as Jalen Hurts. He's light years ahead of Lamar Jackson.
Oh, boy. So
it is, Jason, what it is.
Here's the issue. I believe the Eagles have over 15 free agents. So that's an issue. That window may have been this season, right? He's on his rookie contract. So you know what's going to happen here. He's going to ask for 35, 40, 45 million. So if he gets that extension in due time, so two things are going to happen here with that roster. It's going to get stripped away by impending free agency, and the ability to truly build quality depth on both sides of the ball is now going to be mitigated because of one salary. Are we sure that this wasn't the best chance, that everything was in alignment for Jalen Hurts this season? That's the only concern that I have. See, Jalen Hurts meets all of the intangibles. Strong character, raised well, team guy, physical in nature, so he fits that style. But come on, Jason, that is a loaded roster they had this year that may not be the same or as good moving forward.
I hate this, because I'm going to sound foolish saying this, and I may be proven to be foolish for saying this. But there's something about Jalen Hurts that makes me think he has some Tom Brady in him, and he's not going to break the bank contract-wise.
Okay.
That he's going to make the long-term play of, let me take 30, 32 million rather than 45 or 50, because he keeps going up, up, up. I think because particularly if they come to him now after his third season, rather than waiting as like the whole Lamar thing played out, he may take 35 in a reasonable contract, understanding that if I have this supporting cast, I can keep doing this, and he needs to do whatever he can to keep that offensive line intact. I think he's got those types of intangibles. His dad's a coach. Kid comes from a great family. What he did, how he handled the Tua Tagovailoa situation at Alabama. This guy could be really the. Just think of the endorsements that are headed his way. He can do what Dak Prescott should have done in Dallas, be the total team player, and understand there's so much value in being a Cowboy, and just be more reasonable and lean into all this endorsement money that's coming Jalen Hurts' way. I think he could end up making that play and not just trying to get as much money as possible.
Yeah, but again, we are now in the get bag culture, where everyone else that's never put in the work, that lives vicariously through these athletes, wants to see these athletes get the most amount of money, even at the cost of them winning overall. There's no look at the big picture. I see this in boxing all the time, what I call fanagers. But it's going to be interesting. Look, Jalen Hurts is perfect for that system, and especially with their ability to run the ball and with that +1 running system where he's a threat at that mesh point. So it makes it very difficult to just sit on anything at that second level, because at any time he could pull and run the ball. But with that style comes a physical price, and so he's going to have to continue to evolve as a pocket passer. But Jason, let's say he takes a deal where he says, you know what, I got to get every dime that I'm owed. Forget everything else. I need $42 to $47 million. And that comes at the cost of an offensive lineman here or there, or a third receiver that's really effective. And then all of a sudden, instead of getting so many 2nd and 4s and 2nd and 3s, because of the offensive line not being as strong up front, and now consistently becomes 2nd and 8, which then becomes 3rd and 7, has he evolved enough as a quarterback? Because they do a great job of
He made those plays yesterday, bro. He made a 3rd and 14. He made a bunch of plays on 3rd down with his legs and arm.
He did. He played a really magnificent game outside of one play. Unfortunately, it cost them 7. But again, he is part of a system that really works. Also, Sirianni, the way they play it with Jalen Hurts is they play 4-down football. A lot of teams, especially the conservative coaches, look at we have 3 downs to get 10 yards. Sirianni says, nope, we're going to use all 4 downs. So the way they approach 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 6 is so much different than most every other team, that they're not afraid to just run the ball. And if they can get to 4th and 2, guess what? They're not bringing in that punter. And a lot of that has to do because of the physical nature and the toughness of Hurts. So, yes, there's value to him. But again, quarterbacks on that first contract, it's a little easier to load up that roster than these guys that are on these big contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
You know, I'm going to bring this question up to JB, too, now that I think of it. In terms of Sirianni's aggressiveness on 4th down, and he ran once on 4th and 5 and picked up 17, 20 yards, I can't remember. But I'm wondering if that style works for a traditional pocket passer, because isn't Brandon Staley over in Los Angeles with the Chargers? Doesn't he try to be super aggressive on 4th down too? And it doesn't look or work the same as Sirianni.
It doesn't, and I'll tell you why. I heard this a lot yesterday with the group of JB's friends that were coaches. A lot of this is college concepts. There are a couple plays where they just say that that's college football, where the quarterback counter, the quarterback sneak. If you have a quarterback that you feel is tough enough and athletic enough that they can wedge in 3 to 4 yards and make plays with their feet, and you're just not tossing the ball or pitching it, it's a different style. Yes, Sirianni and Staley, they have a similar philosophy in terms of being aggressive. But I don't see Justin Herbert being used in the same way as Hurts. And there's an old theory. Jimmy Johnson used to say this all the time. If you know you're going to go for it on 4th down, you better have known that by 2nd down, because you're always trying to position that. If you just suddenly get up to the line after a 3rd down play doesn't get you the first, we're going to go for it. Too late, Jason. Too late. It has to become a part of your identity and your offensive philosophy to continually go for it on 4th down.
Today, I believe the offensive coordinator for Philadelphia is going to be finalizing a deal with the Colts. The defensive coordinator is a candidate for the Arizona Cardinals job. Meanwhile, everybody's favorite black assistant coach, Eric Bieniemy, not targeted to be anybody's head coach. He's up to be offensive coordinator some different places. I think Andy Reid, did we get the sound of Andy Reid selling Eric Bieniemy let's play the sound of Andy Reid trying to pawn off Eric Bieniemy on another NFL team right after the game. And Eric Bieniemy was, listen, here's the thing I thought was very interesting watching the game. I don't know if you guys picked up on this. I almost texted you. But Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt talked relentlessly about the Chiefs offense and relentlessly about Andy Reid and that offense. There may have been one moment late in the game where they throw in just like Andy Reid did, and also Eric Bieniemy, maybe once. But they did not play the game from the booth that Eric Bieniemy was running that offense. They talked about Andy Reid. When they talked about Philadelphia, Stitchen or what's the offensive coordinator's name? They talked about him by name, but they never talked about, when they talked about the Chiefs offense, it was always Andy Reid. And I appreciate it because they're not lying to the audience that Eric Bieniemy has constructed this offense and he's the mastermind in controlling the offense. I saw something at the end of the ESPN broadcast where Chris Berman, Booger McFarland, and Steve Young were interviewing Travis Kelce. And they asked Travis about the offense and why they're always so confident. And Travis gave this long explanation about Andy Reid and of how Andy Reid in April and May comes in with all these cards, with a stack of cards that's as tall as a double cheeseburger, with all these new plays. And Travis Kelce had every opportunity to say, and Eric Bieniemy comes in, but he didn't do it. And so I know Patrick Mahomes in his post-game comment made some comment about Eric Bieniemy. Andy Reid did. I'm being very cynical here, but it's what I believe. Patrick Mahomes would like for Eric Bieniemy to get a job and get the hell out of Kansas City. Andy Reid would love for someone to hand Eric Bieniemy a head coaching job so they can pick up those extra draft picks. And that's why they're trying to pawn Eric Bieniemy off. But I appreciated Fox not playing this game of pretending like Eric Bieniemy is dialing up all these plays and designing all these plays. I don't hate Eric Bieniemy, but I just hate the way the media keeps trying to pretend like this guy is the Black Don Coryell. It's just not true.
Jason, Coach B might have an interesting update on the Bieniemy situation. Because he was telling us some stuff yesterday during the game in terms of Bieniemy's future. I'll say this. If you look at the track record of Andy Reid, why wouldn't anyone think that's his offense? The other thing is, with Bieniemy, the best thing to happen to him may be to leave that cocoon of Mahomes and Reid and to show that, hey, I could take Lamar Jackson to the next level, that it wasn't just them. But we have to be fair about this, and I have to be consistent. Jason, how many coordinators have we seen that supposedly coached Aaron Rodgers or Joe Montana, Tom Brady, and everyone thinks they're a genius, and then suddenly they get their own job because they parlay all that success and Super Bowl rings, and their IQ drops 100 points. It reminds me of what I see in boxing all the time. That trainer that's been in the gym. Nathaniel Hackett was the latest one. I see this in boxing a lot. Trainers that we don't know of, and all of a sudden, a kid walks into their lives through the gym doors, and the kid's a savant. Then they take that kid all the way, and that trainer is an absolute genius, right? And then everyone wants to hire them. And then all of a sudden you figure out, yeah, maybe it was the kid. It's kind of like Andre Ward. Andre Ward was an excellent tactician, Hall of Famer. There was a period of about 3-4 years. Everyone hired his trainer, Virgil Hunter. He became like the flavor of the month. Quite frankly, it turns out maybe it was more Andre Ward than Virgil Hunter. Not a knock on anybody, but the talent matters. And I think what's unfair for Bieniemy is going forward, let's say he gets another gig. Here's the problem. Mahomes is state of the art. He's the number one player in the league. No matter who he gets to coach, it ain't going to be 15.
Listening to that, and I can't wait to talk to JB about this, listening to that, and this will be a very arrogant, narcissistic statement, but it's just based in fact, and that's why I'm sharing this story. I've had so many people throughout my career take credit for or claim that, and I'm talking about, you go all the way back to Kansas City in the 1990s. There was this dude named Greg Hall. He's passed on now. He was a friend of mine for a short period of time. And that he got fired from this radio station. He wanted me to make the radio station, give him the job back. I didn't do it because he got fired for good reason. And I wasn't involved in what he got fired over. And that guy turned on a dime, started a website. This is back in, I'm telling you, the late 1990s. Then he started working for the Alternative Weekly, and he just relentlessly kept writing that he used to ghostwrite my stuff. And kept relentlessly claiming. You can go look it up. Deadspin eventually did a story on the guy because he would call Deadspin and write them and tell them and I could go on a laundry list of people that have at one time claimed, yeah, I did this, I fed Whitlock this, it was me. And it didn't matter. And I've worked, everybody knows I've worked everywhere. AOL Sports, ESPN, Fox Sports and ESPN twice, the Kansas City Star. Hell, I did a blog called J School. I'm over here at the Blaze. I wrote for Outkick. And it's like, wherever I go, the columns and all that, the ideas, they're all the same. The quality of work is all the same. And all these people that were, I was responsible. How can it go everywhere I go, there's a different person? And so I just say all that to say about Bieniemy, and you're right with Joe Montana. I saw it with Paul Hackett, Nathaniel Hackett's dad. Yeah, I've seen it a million times where the people around people that have a special gift at a certain aspect, they get credit. But here's the problem for Bieniemy, because everyone say, well, yeah, the white coaches got to piggyback. And just how well can you sell the lie that it was you? That's what it comes down to. And where Bieniemy is clearly failing is he can't sell that lie as well as Paul Hackett did about Joe Montana, as well as Matt Nagy did it for Patrick Mahomes. You got to be able to get in this room and sell the myth that it was you and that you can talk and do the exact same thing as Andy Reid. And it's clear he can't do it. Where these other guys, Charlie Weiss gets in a room and sells it that it was him, not the Belichick system. Eric Bieniemy can't do it. He can't get the job, and so people aren't falling for it. And they've seen every quarterback that plays for Andy Reid. My God. Donovan McNabb looked like a Hall of Famer for Andy Reid. Donovan McNabb was my favorite quarterback and player for a long time. So that's Bieniemy's problem. He's got to work on selling that lie better, just like all the people, and it's a long list of people that selling the lie that, yeah, they ghost wrote my material. And I was like, well, damn, what am I doing up at 4 a.m. if this other guy is actually the one responsible?
Jason, you know what scenario I want to see just for the lulz, which would be a reality show I would tune into? Oh, I want to see Eric Bieniemy coach Kyler Murray, because that would last.
They could see eye to eye.
Yes, they would. How quickly would Eric Bieniemy choke out little Kyler? Because I just think that would be so combustible. Because Kyler Murray, I think, is a coach killer. I think it's out there, and for the Arizona Cardinals to say, well, we're going to give Kyler a say in this. A say in this, he gets no say in this. If I'm Arizona and I'm Bidwell, I'm putting down baseball pamphlets saying, it's a lot easier to play baseball than this. I want the hell out of there. But to see Kyler Murray coached by Eric Public Bieniemy would be must-see TV. I would hope Hard Knocks does a full season on them.
So let's move on. Again, I'm not going to ask you about Beyonce, but there was also another Beyond the halftime. In the pregame, as has now become the custom, we now have 2 national anthems for Super Bowl pregames. We have the national anthem and we have the Black national anthem. And I saw it over Twitter, pictures of people complaining because Kerry Lake, the former gubernatorial candidate for Arizona, longtime TV personality, should be the governor of Arizona, but the election got stolen. She did not stand for the Black national anthem, and people were upset. I don't know if I pretty much know. I wouldn't stand for the Black national anthem because I think it's a joke in terms of we don't have 2 national anthems. There is no such thing as a Black national anthem. It's divisive. It's stupid. I get why in the 20s, 30s, whatever, in the 1900s, why they invented it, but the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, is for all of us. And just because George Floyd died doesn't mean we now have to all stand for the Black national anthem. Your thoughts on Kerry Lake giving everyone the finger over the Black national anthem?
That Miss Lake, you are a ballsy broad. Thumbs up to you, and I'll tell you why. If we are going to say that those who kneel for the national anthem are exercising their First Amendment rights and are well within their rights to make any type of statement they want, then the same treatment and the same leeway should be given to Miss Lake or anyone else. It's really that simple. So is it about First Amendment rights and it's being able to express yourself, or is it only when you agree with their stance? So I give her a lot of credit because she's a public figure. People do care, especially her in that state, with everything that she represents, she says, and everything that she's been through. I mean, Showtime did this big thing. I guess I may or may not watch it, about Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, the former Chris Jackson, who did not stand for the national anthem in the early 90s while a member of the Denver Nuggets, and that's being hailed as this great thing, I like Chris Jackson. He was a spectacular player in college at LSU, and they're making him into a martyr because, again, he took a stand by taking a knee, and this is his First Amendment rights. And guess what? Kerry Lake has those exact same rights. We have to stop this as a society, flip-flopping when people do not agree with us. Bottom line, I still see people booing the national anthem or making us, you know what? That's something that we're going to have to live with. If that's the way you feel, you know what? I will accept it. However, you should accept when people like Miss Lake take those type of stands by sitting.
Steve, it was TJ Moe I didn't want to talk with Rihanna about. I do want to talk with you about Rihanna because we're going to do an approval rating on Rihanna. So I don't know if you caught it, but at one point Rihanna grabbed her crotch and seemed to rub her crotch, and then she brought her fingers up to sniff her fingers during the Super Bowl halftime show. She was wearing all red. It just. It took me back, the Super Bowl performance took me back to when I used to go to nightclubs and hear Rihanna's music, so it made me feel...
Nightclub. I think the first night, can we replace that word with something else that rhymes with crip? Anyway, keep going.
No, I used to go to nightclubs, particularly out in Las Vegas. You go to those dance clubs and you'd hear a lot of Rihanna music, and so it took me back to those days, but man, it was overly sexual and it was overly emasculated. Those men wearing, I think they were wearing Rihanna's lingerie outfits or whatever, and I don't know, I just didn't like it. I wasn't a fan, but in terms of job performance, let me get to my approval rating. What she did, I'm going to give her a 19 in job performance as a Super Bowl halftime act. It was pretty good, and I'm like, again, didn't like it, but I'm kind of like everybody else. She didn't get naked. That was good, but that was probably because she was pregnant, which I'll give her credit for, doing the Super Bowl while pregnant. I'll give her credit for that, not calling in sick. Yes, yeah. But I give her a 19 in job performance, Steve.
All right, I'm going to come clean here. As soon as the whistle sounded for halftime, I made a beeline for Coach JB's kitchen because I had to get another helping of the tri-tip. I mean, it was unbelievable. That tri-tip gets a 25, okay? And by the way, he had 2 different versions of chicken wings. And he had sausage, and I'm going to tell you, his baked beans, wow. Does a hell of a job with the baked beans, by the way. But with that being said, I caught some of it. Look, I'm not one of those people that worship celebrities or entertainers. It's not that big of a deal. I'll give her credit. She was the lady in red, but at least she didn't wear those silly big red boots that look like the Mario Brothers. What is that all about, by the way? Our culture has just gone to big fat zero. But with that said, she did play the hits. She kept it simple. It was a good playlist. However, again, I'm going to be the old man screaming at the clouds. I was there when Michael Jackson, not there in person, but at the 93 Super Bowl, when the Cowboys wrecked the Bills. Michael Jackson, that was a performance. Prince in the Rain, that was a performance. I mean, she was okay. To me, I'm going to say this right now. The league can win me back if you bring back a performance next year featuring Aquanet Latin freestyle. So Stevie B, Trinier, Debbie Deb, got to get Lisa. Now you do a little bit of that and you take it back. You're going to have me, I will watch that show. But Riri, I don't care about that. I gave her a 10. And I think I'm being charitable. A 10.
I would have scored a little higher. It's like when she did all of the lights, I was like, oh, Kanye, Bring Kanye out. That would have made some news if Kanye had come out and rapped his verse. That would have been good. The other thing I just remembered now is just like she started her performance out with, "Bitch better have my money, pay me what you owe me." And I'm just like, people are watching this with their kids, and the first song is "Bitch better have my money," and many of the songs revolved around money and just materialism. All right, character. I gave her a 14. She's knocked up again. We don't know who the daddy is. I don't know who the daddy is. She's knocked up again. I give her a 14 in character. I give her credit for showing up to work being pregnant, but I knock her down points for being pregnant, and I don't think this is her first baby daddy experience.
Jason, I hope she knows who the baby daddy is, but there is this hypothesis that maybe she's making a pro-life statement by what she did. So I'm like, okay, but I'm going to be honest with you. She said a couple of years ago when Colin Kaepernick was the cool thing, she said, I'm not a sellout. I'm not doing the NFL thing. How does that help my people? Again, modern day activism is a fad. It is ineffective. It's just about gestures and saying the right thing to appease them all. So for that, Riri, I got to knock you down, giving you a 5.
Boy, with that bit of information, I wouldn't have been near this high on her authenticity. Yeah. If I had been thinking and had thought about what you're talking about. She did poop on, she was against the Super Bowl halftime until Jay-Z got involved and there was a paycheck involved. So I gave her a 20 in authenticity, but I kind of regret it.
Yeah, I gave her a 5 based on that. And I sent a group chat that we have. I sent you the thing where she basically said, I'm above this. I'm power to the people. Well, I guess not. And that's why I don't take any of these celebrity activists seriously. Nobody should ever listen to them. But I'm being a little bit harsh because, look, there's a lot of pressure on individuals like her to be with the mob or they'll get canceled. But again, I got to stick it to her and say, look, you said something and you went back against it. So I don't even know what you mean. I don't even know when you're being truthful. Again, I give her a 5.
It factor. I'm kind of with Stephen A. Smith, like Rihanna, but she's not Beyonce. Rihanna and I stayed at the same hotel in London once, and so I got to be, within a couple of feet of Rihanna at the front of the hotel, coming in and out over the course of about a week. And Rihanna's got a lot of forehead. She's attractive, but she's got a lot of forehead. And so I give Rihanna a 23 in it factor. I'm just keeping it real.
I want to call you Black Galata. That's a low blow. She's a lovely lady. She's very, very attractive. Give me a break. And I will say this. I'm going to be very, very fair. She caused a buzz. I've seen some halftime performances that weren't very good. This one here, a lot of people, I don't understand this, though. All these guys were supposedly great football fans acting like panting teenagers over this performance. I'm like, fellas, how about the Super Bowl? That kind of matters too, but she does matter. She moves the needle. She's had a great career. I give her a 25. She does have the it factor.
All right, so I've got her at a smoke show 76. Somehow Steve has Rihanna as a dumpster fire 45.
Yeah, right. I mean, Jason,
pretty
again.
negative for you, Steve.
Look, Whitney Houston, the most memorable national anthem I've ever heard. It was during the Gulf War, Tampa, that one Super Bowl with the Giants and Bills. I don't care that she lip synced. Hey, people, they all lip sync. But the way she knocked it out, and I just remember watching that, thinking, God bless this great country. Whitney, you are missed. She'd get 100. She would get 100, Whitney. I don't care how it ended. You'd get 100. I'm just going to say that.
Thank you, Steve. Great job as always. You can email me and us, fearlessblazeshow@gmail.com. Coach JB, just around the corner. Next.
Thank you. Now, as a fellow New Yorker, I think one of the things that we should talk about here is also one of the disgusting legacies after 9/11 has been the targeting and racism against Muslim Americans. throughout the United States of America, and this is an extension of that legacy. Consistency, there is nothing consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in this body. I had a member of the Republican caucus threaten my life, and you all and the Republican caucus rewarded him with one of the most prestigious committee assignments in this Congress. Don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology when my life was threatened. Thank you.
All right, welcome back. So I owe Rihanna an apology. A$AP Rocky, some rapper, I think is the dad of both of her kids. So let me offer that clarification for you Rihanna fans. I don't want the Rehive jumping all over me over YouTube and social media. All right, I've done that bit of house cleaning and cleanup. Let's roll out to Los Angeles and bring in Coach Jason Brown, the real JB. You know him from Last Chance U. You're getting to know him as the host of Last Chance Q with Sean Salisbury, and he's got the Real JB show. You guys have seen him on this show virtually every Monday during the NFL season. JB, I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna start you easy. I'm not gonna go at you right off the top. I'm gonna start you easy. Steve Kim was just here bragging about your nachos and your whole Super Bowl spread. Calls you the greatest chef in football history. Said you did a marvelous job yesterday.
Oh, appreciate Steve, man. He's a great mammal. I gotta be honest. All we talked about was where Jason Whitlock was at, man. That's all we know.
I wish I had been there. I could have used the extra 5,000 calories. What's in your nachos that Steve says are just incredible? You're the king of nachos.
Man, I make ground beef or I make turkey meat for guys like me and you that are trying to diet. You and I trying to diet. So I ground up some beef, man, and I season it up like a taco sauce, like a taco seasoning, and I make that first, and then I'll make me some refried beans and some black beans. I'll mix those together, and then I'll put the chips down. I'll throw the cheese on it. Then I'll throw the hot meat and the refried beans and black beans over it, and then I'll top it with some diced cut tomatoes, some green onion, some real onions, and sour cream and avocado, man. And it came out the best nachos I've ever had, and I ended up making them. No boasting here. Hey, it ain't bragging if it's true, they say.
Who taught you to cook?
Myself, man. Myself. No, Jason, I swear to you on this. You know I like to talk out the side of my mouth here and there and mess with a lot of people. But I'm never gonna lie. I don't want to remember stuff, so I'm not going to lie. But I've never to this day used a cookbook or a measuring cup ever to make anything. It's all ad lib. All.
Wow. All right, that is impressive. I certainly cannot match you there. I like to go out to eat rather than cook. JB, now things are going to get tougher. The floor is yours. Go ahead and apologize to Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs fans across the country. Patrick Mahomes has taken the torch from Tom Brady. It's his league now. 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowls. An incredible performance last night on a high ankle sprain. They kept him off the field in the first half, couldn't keep him off the field in the second half, and he put the Eagles to bed last night. And I'm sure you just want to sing Patrick Mahomes' praises. Floor is yours.
I don't know if I can laugh, cry, or what am I supposed to do there? Timeout. First of all, let's back up a second. You said you just lied to the national audience in front of our very own faces and said he put the Eagles to bed. He took the torch from Brady? I would say the MVP of that game last night was Kadarius Toney for a return to a punt to put them down there to score to take the lead 35-28. I would also be buying the entire defense Maseratis for getting me that touchdown, so I didn't have to go out there. And then I want to address the world and say, on my show this morning, I said, listen, I give Mahomes all the credit in the world. I'll never apologize for who I am or what I said. I will admit, just like you will admit about your Joe Burrow statement, I will admit when I'm wrong or if somebody proves me wrong. I'm yet to be proven wrong on this Patrick Mahomes thing. He's won 2 Super Bowls, 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowl MVPs faster than anyone else by the age of 27. So I give him that credit. But let's not act like this was the Michael Jordan flu game or Kobe coming out tearing his Achilles, walking off shooting 2 free throws, or Jack Youngblood playing a Super Bowl with a broken leg, or Ronnie Lott cutting off his damn finger. Let's calm down and pump our brakes here. He had an ankle sprain who had 2 weeks off, and we're acting like he just was the hero of American sports last night. He threw for 180 yards, and he threw 3 touchdowns, all of them under 15 yards. Calm down. Kadarius Toney returned that punt. Without it, the Chiefs lose. The Eagles could not muster a sack. The MVP of the game should have been the offensive line for the Chiefs. Andy Reid is clearly the coach of the year, and he learned from his mistakes in Tampa 2 years ago, playing a dominant D-line and a defensive front that could not muster 1 sack. By getting the ball out quick, by getting the ball out with screens, backs in the flat, and you see the Eagles could not cover anything coming out of the flat because they were trying to hit him in the middle. And it was a great job by Andy Reid recognizing that and making that a halftime adjustment. But let's make no mistake about it. 14 points came off special teams and defense, or that game's over. The Eagles had 11 minutes time of possession favorite, more first downs, more third down conversions, and that's the first time I've ever seen a team that won in all those categories lose a game.
And so you did see Patrick Mahomes limp off the field in the first half with re-injuring his ankle. Jog into the halftime locker room very gingerly because he was hurt. Come back into the game in the third quarter, scramble for like 20 yards on a key third down play. The man did everything that you would want a franchise quarterback to do in that situation, in that game. They scored on every possession in the second half. Andy Reid said it. Stevie Wonder could see it. Patrick Mahomes was worth every dime the Chiefs paid him, and he is now, with Tom Brady retired, he's the man carrying the league, Jason. Give it up to the man. Give the man his flowers.
First of all, you just said an oxymoron. He can't be injured and run for 20 yards on an ankle. He had a hurt boo-boo ankle. He's not like he's a cripple out there. Come on now. We're giving this cat way too much anointing in a 4-year span. He's in the year 5. Let's see him play 5 more years. I did say, let's see him win another Super Bowl. He just did. Now he's got 2. He's 2-1, which is a lot better than 1-2. But he's not lighting the world on fire in the biggest moments, which is the Super Bowl. He's still underachieving in Super Bowl games, in my opinion. In 3 of them, he's less than stellar. Now, giving him his flowers, like you say, I have done. I did it this morning. I do it right now. He's won 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, faster than anybody. You can't take that away from him. So I do give him those flowers, and I just can't wait for Andy Reid to retire so we can see the real Patrick Mahomes and everybody can come call me and tell me sorry. So we'll wait for that. But until then, I'm bowing down. Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City, I love you guys. You're the man. You're the men. You're the women. Patrick Mahomes is the hero of all heroes today as everybody gets on their knees and begs for Messiah to walk by, Patrick Mahomes. I know they're gracing his red carpet that he walks on.
So let me move you to the other quarterback, Jalen Hurts, who exceeded all of my expectations. I didn't think Jalen Hurts was capable of what I saw from him yesterday. Other than that fumble, a flawless game from Jalen Hurts. Some of the passes he completed on third down, some of the running he did on third and fourth down, even the short yardage running, and just I did not think Jalen Hurts was that good. I leave that game feeling like he's the third or fourth best quarterback in the NFL. Burrow and Mahomes in a class by himself. Burrow right there nipping at his heels, right there with him. And then it's Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, just depending on your taste. Do you agree?
Not at all. First of all, they have to make a heck of a decision here coming forward because he's on a contract negotiation. He wants a contract. They have 10 unrestricted free agents that started in yesterday's game. 10 of them. Now, hear me out, Jason, on this one. You're saying he played a flawless game. 2 pick sixes away from what are you talking about today? Goddard, if Goddard doesn't save him and jump ball through the hands of 2 defenders, it's pick 6 twice. Just so you know. He threw an errant fade ball to Devontae Smith on the 2-yard line. If he just keep the ball in bounds, it's a touchdown. He threw him out of bounds. And you can argue A.J. Brown saved him twice, one for a touchdown. So let's just pump our brakes on how great and flawless he was. He had 3 rushing touchdowns by design. Here's my point. I think he had a hell of a game. 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. I don't care how you score him. He scored 3 touchdowns. We can argue that. But let's make no mistake about it. He's on a contract negotiation year. Are you paying this guy to be the figurehead of your program with 10 more unrestricted free agents? That is unsustainable success. He cannot continue this. So is he going to win with his feet and win you a Super Bowl for 4 or 5 years? Are you going to pay this guy to do so? And understand this. They're going to stop his feet. Can he beat you with his arm for 4 or 5 more years? No, he cannot. So let's be honest with this. Since we're going to talk about Lamar Jackson, we're going to talk about Trey Lance, we're going to talk about Justin Fields, Kyler Murray. I said this about Carson Wentz and Derek Carr. They are all overvalued. And we're going to keep paying these guys big money to have mediocrity around us, which is our roster being our rosters are bad around them. So what are you going to do? You're going to pay Jalen Hurts, Jason? That's just my question. You're going to pay him and let 10 guys go, Jason Kelsey included? Or are you going to keep
I think Jalen Hurts may be a different guy and may go the Brady route of taking less money to make sure he has the proper supporting cast. I'm just hoping. He's a different kid, great family, dad a coach. There's so much endorsement money because of his narrative, his story, what he overcame in Alabama going to Oklahoma. I'm hoping he plays it smarter than Dak Prescott and these other guys that just want to get as big a bag as they possibly can. I'm hoping. But JB, man, this I can't even put him, and I know Lamar had an MVP season 3 years ago or whenever it was, but Lamar's not in the same lane as Jalen Hurts. That's not comparable.
You're saying Hurts
Jalen
is better?
Hurts. Yes, because of what he can do from the pocket, his ball placement. The guy was brilliant as a passer yesterday. Come on, JB.
I'm not arguing that point at all. I'm not arguing right there at all. I tend to agree with you. I'm just telling you what the narrative is out there. Lamar Jackson is considered to some as the greatest thing since sliced bread. So, and now you're starting to see the Lamar Jackson that we all thought, well, that coaches like myself and the professional coaches that I know and talk to, who I can talk to you about for a 2-hour show about the real things that we see in Patrick Mahomes and the real things we see in Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. But, nobody wants to hear those things. They just want to go with what the ocular lens looks like on the outside. They think that he won the Super Bowl last night. Well, in reality, He really didn't, but nobody really wants to break that down. Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Derek Carr, Wentz, Baker Mayfield, all these dudes have one thing in common. They don't have the it factor. They can't throw the ball from the pocket on time to save not only themselves and allow them to have a longer career, or can they make their teammates better? They individually have to do something on their own with either their feet, either ad-lib or improvisational throws be successful, and it's not sustainable, Jason. We haven't seen it yet. So until we do, Jalen Hurts has to prove to me that he can win with his arm consistently, not just with his feet. Because in 4 years right now, Jason, I'm going to be on your show, and you're going to be saying, man, what happened to Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson and all of them? They got hurt. They got banged. I'm going to be honest. I said it on my show today. I will not be shocked at all if Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts are not in the NFL in 5 years' time. They won't even be playing because they're going to play this reckless abandonment type of style, and they'll be out of the league or just non-relevant. They'll be irrelevant. So you can say what you want. You can say what you want, but you have to stay upright, Jason. You have to stay upright.
JB, do you remember a guy, there was a young man that came into the NFL out of the Naval Academy years ago named Roger the Dodger Staubach? He ran around, had a nice long career with the Dallas Cowboys back when you could really hit the quarterback. And so what we just saw from Jalen Hurts last night reminds me of Roger Staubach. And he made plays with his feet, but he also made plays with his arm. And I just think I never anticipated Jalen Hurts being that type of passer, and it's just going to get better. Jalen Hurts is here for the long haul, man. It's hard for me. And I know the Kansas City defense isn't great, but that dude had some ball placement last night that was top-notch, elite.
I don't agree with top-notch elite. I think he threw bad balls all night. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to correct you when you say elite passer. I'm going to call him a thrower. He's a thrower that makes plays with his feet and allows guys to come open. He's a thrower, Jason. Until he becomes a passer, I can't say he's going to be around for a long time because I have to see him become a passer and get out of the throwing mentality. Right now, he's a thrower. He drops back. He makes a play on time. Occasionally, maybe 1 out of every 10, 9 out of 10, he's improvising, making throws on the run or bad errant throws when he is in the pocket. Even though we see them as completions, Jason, in the NFL to sustain, those balls need to be touchdowns. Those balls need to be in stride, not throwing guys out of bounds, not missing guys out of bounds. Jason, why are we not talking about this guy just came off an injury and he's probably hurt right now? And we're going to pay him and you think he's going to be available in 4 years from now? That's my point. I don't disagree with you being around for the long haul. I think Jalen Hurts has impressed me with his mechanics in the year, just from last year to this year. He is the single most improved quarterback in the NFL. I've said it over and over and over. What I'm saying is, he still has to take a step to be an elite passer. He played all rookies on defense yesterday. Let's not make a mistake about it. All rookie secondary. And you have A.J. Brown and Smith out there who saved him. And Goddard, don't make a mistake, Goddard saved him twice on jump balls, or those were pick sixes. So we all want to just look at the outside and say, oh, he threw for 300 and ran 3 touchdowns. I agree with you. I think he's around for a while, but he's not going to be this guy for long if he can't stay upright.
Well, you just said he'll be out of the league in 5 years, JB.
I said, don't be surprised if Josh Allen and all these guys are out of the league in 5 years if they don't learn how to be safe in the pocket and throw the ball. I'm just telling you, Josh Allen's this far away, Jason, this far away.
Let me throw something else at you. An observation I came up with Steve Kim, that this whole Nick Sirianni hyper-aggressive 4-down offensive system that looked amazing last night and kept Patrick Mahomes off the field and put Philadelphia in a chance to win the game. I'm thinking you can only do that offense with a quarterback who can run. And so Brandon Staley with the Chargers wants to be that kind of aggressive, but he's got Justin Herbert, and it doesn't look the same as Nick Sirianni because Sirianni's quarterback can run or pass. They ran on 4th and 5 with Jalen Hurts and picked up the first down. It was incredible. And so this whole 4th down aggressive thing from these young coaches looked pretty good to me last night. And it was like it's one of the newer wrinkles in football and maybe it'll be just like the Wildcat. It'll have a 2-year lifespan and people will figure it out and it'll go away. But the only way to try to do it, I think, is with a quarterback that can run. Your thoughts on any of that?
Well, I smell contradiction in the air because, yes, of course it has to be a quarterback that can run. That's why I'm telling you it's not going to last for more than 4 more years. They can't do it. You can't run this offense with a stiff back there like me. You can't do it with Andy Dalton. Lamar Jackson and the Philadelphia Eagles are the 2 offenses that run triple option with the Q, RPO, double option with the Q. Just so we're clear, contrary to the belief of the Steve Youngs and everybody RG3s on TV who make an ass out of themselves because they don't know the difference between RPO and triple option. It's unbelievably bad announcing, by the way, but the common fan don't know the difference. There is a huge difference between triple option, RPO, and double option. And everybody thinks they classify it as RPO. That's an RPO. No, it's not. It has nothing to do with an RPO when they run triple option. Well, anyway, you have to create these offenses, Jason. You're seeing offenses created for the Q because they can't pass the football effectively, efficiently, or consistently. That is why you see offenses being ran the way they are in Philly, in Baltimore, Frisco when they had Trey Lance, certain places, Justin Fields in Chicago, all very similar. Now, the OC for the Eagles.
JB, let me stop you for 1 second, JB. And I hear you trashing this offense. But in Jalen Hurts' second year as a starter, if not for the referee blowing the ending of that game, he could have very well have won a Super Bowl. What's the matter with this offense?
No. Wait, you got me wholly confused here. I'm not trashing the offense at all. This is my offense. I run this same stuff. To answer your question, you just said, what I'm telling you is it's not a fad. This is college football. What we're seeing in the NFL is college football. It is carded, tempo, shotgun, read option, RPO. This is college football at its finest. I had 3 coaches with me yesterday in my house with Steve Kim, and we were all discussing. They got to hear real coaches, 2 former Division I coaches, and we're like, this is college football at its finest, man. We're watching college football now in the NFL, which we never would think of. Back in the day, we see I formation, 21 personnel. We run ISO, power, play action off of it, no matter who the QB was. You are running college offense now in the NFL with particular guys. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Kyler Murray. You are running triple option, RPO, double option. Make no mistake about it. The guy calling those plays, just like Greg Roman did it in Baltimore, the guy that's running it now, Skoranek or whatever his name is, he just got the head job in Indianapolis just a few hours ago, Jason. So what's going to happen now? Who are you going to bring into Philly to continue that system? And I love the system. Shoot, I love Greg Roman in Baltimore. As a coach, the novice fan thinks, oh, Greg Roman's horrible. No, Lamar Jackson's horrible. Greg Roman's having to create John Madden football plays to allow him to have success. And that is what's happening here. But in Philly, Jalen can throw better, to your point, than Lamar. So you can do a few more things in the game than you can with Lamar when we're strictly running, triple option with the QB run game. You can do a few more things formationally with Jalen Hurts, and because he can throw a slant on time, he can throw a corner route, He can throw a fade route here and there. So it's completely different, even though it's kind of from the same family tree, same system. But it's all college tempo, RPO, triple option offense. We're seeing it in the NFL right now, and we were saying it last night. Unless you can throw the ball from the pocket, there is no more Tom Brady's, Jason. You're not going to see a 20-year quarterback in this league anymore, and you're going to see guys last 3, 4, 5, 7 years tops. And Josh Allen now entering year 4 or 5, you're going to be lucky to see him a few more years if they don't learn how to run the ball and throw from the pocket. Same with Jalen, same with Lamar, same with Justin Fields. Their careers are going to be short-lived, so be careful how you construct their contracts, because you're just setting your organization up for failure if this guy can't sustain longevity and be your guy for multiple years, more than just 2 or 3 years, and try to win a Super Bowl and hope he can do it with his feet, because it's not going to last very long.
JB, I want to take you on one more topic that Steve Kim told me I needed to ask you about Eric Bieniemy. Because one of the things I noticed last night was that there wasn't, from Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt, they weren't singing the praises of Eric Bieniemy. They all night sung the praises of Andy Reid and that offense. We saw Andy Reid after the game start praising Patrick Mahomes and everybody, and also Eric Bieniemy. And part of my theory is that and we saw Patrick Mahomes praise Eric Bieniemy. And to me, I think these guys want to get Eric Bieniemy up out of Kansas City. Andy Reid wants to get some extra draft picks for having developed Eric Bieniemy and pawned him off on another team. Patrick Mahomes is not a huge Eric Bieniemy guy and would just like to see him get the hell out of there. But I was telling Steve Kim that I appreciated the fact that Fox Sports on its broadcast didn't sell this lie that it was Eric Bieniemy's offense and he was the mastermind. They didn't play the game. The rest of the media does as it relates to Eric Bieniemy. I talked about that, look, there's a lot of guys that do what Eric Bieniemy has done for the last 2 or 3 years. They get carried by a great head coach, but they're able to go in and lie to some potential owner or some potential executive and convince them that, hey, I can do what Andy Reid did, or I can do what Bill Belichick did, or I can do what Bill Walsh did and get a job. Eric Bieniemy can't pull that lie off, so he can't get a job. But Steve said that you may have some insight into what's going on with Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City and perhaps what they really think.
Yeah, I showed Steve yesterday, pretty damn reliable source. Yeah, Andy's come to the conclusion that if you want to coach or be a head coach or have your own legacy, you need to get the hell out of here. So I'm making you leave. And I'm going to tell you right now, today, tomorrow, by the end of the week for sure, he'll be the OC somewhere. I think Arizona Cardinals is his best option, number one. But the
holy cow, you want to put him with Kyler Murray?
Yeah, you know why? Because he'll choke the hell out of him. So, all right, so let me go back. Number one, before I get to that, the source I know is reliable. And then if you don't notice, if you go back and find the clip, as soon as the game ended, where I pointed out to Steve and he was like, dang, I was like, yeah, man, it's a real deal. The first thing out of Andy Reid's mouth was what? Do you know? The first thing he said when they came up to him right on the field, he said, shout out, it couldn't do any of this without Eric Bieniemy. He deserves the credit. Like, when do you just go out and say that about your OC?
It's not the first thing. We played the clip. Let's play it again. It's high up. Play the clip, Justin. We hold for a second.
I don't know what clip you're talking about. Are you talking about him on the field when he left the sideline?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Play the clip. That's the clip I'm talking about.
There's another clip when he walks off the sideline. He walks off the sideline and he said, Eric Bieniemy deserves all the praise. So That's what my point is, though. When do you just come out and make sure you are pointing out that Eric Bieniemy is being said, unless you're getting rid of him by design? So he'll be out of there. And I think he has to. I think he has to be. But let me just tell you, Jason, you are now.
Well, hold on for one thing, JB. I do want to be clear. They tried to get him up out of there last year. If you remember, the contract negotiation went on forever, and there was all these rumors that he was going to leave. They definitely want Eric out of there. They're tired of that cloud being over them. And if you just watch the broadcast of a lot of their primetime games, everybody, just like Olsen and these guys didn't talk a lot about Bieniemy. I've seen it earlier in games where the broadcasters, I believe, were instructed, quit talking about Eric Bieniemy, quit talking about him. You know, we'll get him a job, but we're not going to continue with this game of the broadcaster sitting in the booth pretending like he's orchestrating this whole thing. Let me shut up. Unpack your story.
Well, first of all, I've been saying this for 4 years. I've been pointing out to people why I can tell you he's not the OC, why I can tell you he doesn't call one play. And if you watch head coaches that are head coaches and have coordinators, what is the number one thing you notice or don't notice? Do you ever see the head coach holding a play sheet in his face like this if he's not calling plays? No. Andy Reid holds a card this big, and he's holding it because he's calling plays. Eric Bieniemy is calling personnel. He's calling other things. So having said that, I've known this forever. Everyone in the football business knows it as a coach or a former player. Shady McCoy came out and blasted Bieniemy because he didn't like him. I don't agree with that, but I do agree with the fact that I know he doesn't call plays. Now, having said that, it's a slippery slope. As a black coach in a really, really this time and era we're in, does he go to Baltimore as a black coach and Lamar Jackson's your quarterback? I want to ask you this as a black man. Who is going to be thrown under the bus when that thing implodes? Lamar Jackson or Eric Bieniemy? Because Eric Bieniemy now is going to come over there without Patrick Mahomes, and they're going to say, oh, it was Andy Reid carrying your butt around this whole time. If he fails and if he succeeds, they're going to say, oh, you just inherited Lamar Jackson, another very similar player to Patrick Mahomes. So I would not advise Eric Bieniemy, who I know my whole life, to go to Baltimore. I would tell him to go to Arizona, even though Kyler's black. I understand it. But Kyler's an issue. Kyler's a cancer. Kyler has a very, very negative connotation around him. If Eric can go there and correct that situation and get him to perform and build that organization, now he is the guy they're going to say, wow, maybe Mahomes' credit belongs to Eric Bieniemy. Maybe Eric Bieniemy is the guy. If you go to Washington, under what's going to be a new ownership regime, it looks like there, I can see that as well. Taking a guy like Taylor Heineke, or if they draft a quarterback like C.J. Stroud or in a trade or they get somebody, can you prove that you are this guy with some guys like Chad Henne, for instance, an average of the road guy, and win there? That is what Bieniemy needs to do. I would stay away from Lamar Jackson. I think it's a fire waiting to happen because of both situations. And I'll be honest, I'm not too sure Lamar is returning to Baltimore either. I'm just telling you. From what I hear, they're $40 million apart on their discussions. I would not be shocked if they traded him. That is kind of what I've been hearing as well. And, Eric Bieniemy, man, is in a very, very slippery – he's walking a tight rope, Jason, because guess what? If you fail at whatever job you take, he will never coach again. He'll have to go to college because he will be thrown out this league. They'll say you were a fraud. Andy Reid saved you. He carried you. You're garbage. You were horrible. So I feel for him too because he's in a situation where they've been blowing him up for 3-4 years as the next head coach of somewhere. And let me ask you this, Jason, before you move on or get out of here, is is the Mike McDaniels in Miami and the young cat that left the Rams and that now the head coach for Minnesota right now, are they more deserving or more worthy than an Eric Bieniemy? Because that's my question. Why is Eric Bieniemy not a head coach if those guys are? And I do not think
because he can't get in the room and make the sell. Did you ever watch The Sopranos? And that's what this show was about today. About this, because I call this the Sopranos Bowl, the Super Bowl. It's the worst ending in TV. Did you watch The Sopranos, JB?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember Uncle Junior, season 2 or 3, Richie Aprile? Richie Aprile comes out of prison and wants to take over for Tony. And Uncle Junior's kind of down with it. And then Uncle Junior figures out like, oh, Richie Aprile, he can't make the sell. He can't be a leader. He doesn't have the it factor, the charisma to get in the room and to get people to buy into him as a leader. And Junior stepped away from him and sold Richie Aprile out. That's what you have. Again, you've been a head coach. You know the coaching profession. Can you get in the room and make the sell and sell yourself and convince the people in charge that you're the man and you can be the leader? He can't do it. TV, movies are all about the reason why Bill Maher has that show on HBO from years ago, he could get in a room with some executives and convince them, yeah, I'm the star of a TV show, I can lead this show, blah, blah, blah. Eric Bieniemy can't do it. Mike McDaniel can. We'll find out if it's legitimate, but all kinds of people get in those rooms, make the sale, convince them, and fail and flame out. It's commonplace. That's how you get jobs.
If Mike McDaniel can sell it over Eric Bieniemy, we have a administrative problem. Let me just tell you that, brother. Because I'll be damned if I'm going to play for Mike McDaniel's weirdo self over Eric Bieniemy. There's no way. There is a huge difference in America. You know what, Jason? Mediocrity is the new excellence. Let's just keep it at that. That is real talk. We are so.
Here's what JB, you know it better than anybody. Players want to play for guys who they believe can make them better and can make them money. Period. End of story. Mike McDaniel can draw up plays and I can get paid and get stats. They don't care if he's a goofball. They don't care if he, comes off as a nerdy dork. Can he draw up plays, get my stats, and get me paid? That's all they care about. That's what players care about. Ownership cares about other things, and it's all a sales job. And Eric Bieniemy is not a good salesman of Eric Bieniemy. But that's really not a fault of his. It's just a fact. And I get tired of people feeling like NFL ownership or any owner of anything makes a decision at this point, particularly in a league like the NFL that's dominated by a black player. They're not making these decisions based on race. They're making a decision on whether you can convince them that you're the guy and you can reach these 53 guys and Eric hasn't done it. He's got problems with players. He's been on the sidelines fighting with Travis Kelce. He's got Shady McCoy and all these guys. He just doesn't have it.
Players aren't interviewing though. Remember, it's these owners. So,
but who do the owners go and talk to afterwards about their decision? They talk to the players, and the players all talk to each other. And so Travis Kelce, popular, Patrick Mahomes, as popular as anybody. And so there's things that guys say on TV that when you call them in private and say, hey, Pat, what do you think of Eric Bieniemy? Oh, he's an idiot, man. I can't stand the guy. I can't wait for him to get out of here. I'll never say it on TV. That's what he's dealing with.
And that's what happens. That's what happens with a lot of these underlying interviews. So, it is. You're going to check references, Jason, and you're going to find out, and some things are going to check. But there's also a thing out there that you may not interview well that's what people say. But a lot of people don't understand. You may not understand his language either, because he really only wants to coach on the field. He don't really care about appeasing the admin or the owners or any of that. He wants to coach the kids. And I know a lot of players that have played for him. I've known him a long time. He's a hell of a coach. I do know that. He is fiery. He will piss people off. He will get under your skin. So in this day and age, Jason, just like me right now, I'm on this show and I'm not coaching for a reason. Eric can very well be that guy soon. He can very well be that guy if he's not careful.
And so here's the other deal. Go ahead and play tomorrow because we're out of here. I've gone. But here's the other deal. When you take on that job as offensive coordinator, that makes people start evaluating you on your X's and O's ability rather than evaluating you as a leader. You jump in, everybody make me an offensive coordinator. Next thing you know, they're evaluating it. Can you stand at that board and draw it up and design and be as creative as Andy Reid? And they find, he can't. If he wants to be judged as a leader, perhaps he shouldn't be offensive coordinator. He should be assistant head coach. Put yourself in a different lane. It's all a packaging and sales job. It's anyway, JB, we'll talk this week because love what you do here on Mondays. And I know that you can talk about more than football. And so we'll have some conversations this week about how we can keep shining some light on you because you're doing a great job. You're building your own platform, and we love having you here. You do an awesome job for us. I got to get out there and get some of your nachos and ribs and all that. Anywho, thank you. We'll talk to you next week. All right, that's tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Looking like a fly time, feeling all kinds of free. These words are our religion, all regrets and our decisions. We all wanna go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination. Raising up your hands for freedom. Raise up your hands for freedom.